You guys, what's going on here?
Back in your car right now.
No, I'm detained right here. I'm a constitutional law scholar. I travel the country suing police. So give me back my license and let me go. Or give me a ticket. You don't need another cop here. I need you to do your job and let me go. Hey, eat my shorts. I'm coming to a safe place.
I'm not going to argue with you.
I'm not going to argue with you. I'm going to take your ass to court. Now write your ticket. I got to go. I got to catch a plane.
Write my ticket if you're getting out of your car.
I'm not going anywhere, jackboot thug. I don't give a damn. I don't know who you are. You got the gun. Get in the car and do your freaking job. I gotta go. I gotta catch a plane. You joined that disgusting organization. That's what you did, you piece of shit. You're a piece of garbage, bro. Pulls me over for my... I want to see the camera where my tail lights were out. I want to see that. No, I want to sue him. I want to put his hands on me so I can sue him. And I'll go after his badge. That's what I really want to do. You joined an evil thing, bro. Quit now. I don't fight anybody. I'm a nonviolent pacifist. I can't hear you. I'm sorry. What?
Looking to get in a civil fight all the time.
I try to sue as many
just
cops as I
annoying.
possibly can. Yes. You joined an evil organization.
Is that your job?
Yeah, this is all I do. I'm up here right now helping another guy. No, I'm just an activist. But why am I celebrated and you're demonized? Why is that? Because the policies and procedures... No, dude. The policies and procedures you signed up to do are disgusting. This jackboot thug would put me in handcuffs in 2 seconds flat.
I don't know what that means, Jack.
A jackboot thug... Do you have torture cuffs on your belt?
I have handcuffs.
Right. So those are torture cuffs. Let me put them on you for 5 minutes. I'll give you $1,000 for 5 minutes. I'll give you $1,000.
Unfortunately, man, I can't do that.
Quit now, dude.
I'm just documenting that I'm getting pulled over.
Step out of the vehicle. You are refusing to exit voluntarily.
And this is a cop trying to pull me out of my vehicle. I got pulled over because I was in the wrong lane, and he is now trying to pull me out of my vehicle.
Ma'am, again, I am going to ask you to exit the vehicle. Ma'am, for my safety and yours, exit the vehicle now. Ma'am.
Sir, do you see yourself right now?
122, I'm not able to get her to exit. All right, don't move that hand.
I have no guns on me, no weapons on me. My hands have been on the steering wheel, and he just grabbed my hand off the steering wheel and is now trying to get me out of my vehicle by force.
Ma'am, you are refusing to exit the vehicle. I did so for officer safety.
I'm pulled over on the interstate. Cars are going 70 miles an hour. And this police officer is trying to pull me out of my vehicle when there are no weapons in the vehicle. And I've stated this and kept my hands on the wheel.
Welcome back, my PBS family. Welcome back. Today's episode of Old School Cops is going to be a real special one. Listen, I read your comments. I love that you sent in a bunch of videos. And my partner Shane is off tonight. So one of my closest friends, she is an attorney. She was a prosecutor for 10 years. She is now a constitutional expert. When I tell you, when I go to her for any type of advice, when it comes down to the Constitution, this is who I go for. This is who I go to. So I'm sharing to you guys who I go to. She is amazing. She knows the Constitution ins and outs. And this is a good segment to actually have her come on and pretty much give the legality of whether an officer can keep you in a vehicle for officer safety or once you get out, because we see time and time again, right, that somebody will get out to try to voice an opinion, then the officer says, get back in the car. And for me as an officer, we was always told for officer safety, the courts have given us a lot of leeway when keeping people in the car and when pulling people out the car. So what I did was I seen comments all the time on these particular videos, and people express their concern when it comes down to, well, I didn't do anything wrong. Well, the officer was wrong. And you got a right to get out the car. I want to tell you, right, regardless of the legality, please take your fight to the courtroom. The officer wins on the side of the road.
Yes.
All the time, every day, all day. You will not win your argument. You could be 100% right. You could have just came across an a-hole officer and he didn't like you for whatever reason, and he stops you, and you're like, why did you stop me? Your fight right there, hold off on that. Yes, no, get your ticket, whatever it is, take it to a courtroom, because that's where you get your vindication. You don't get it on the side of the road. You never went on the side of the road. But for technical purposes, right? For the law, for people who say, yeah, I know my rights, I'm going to let Chris Sam give us a school when it comes down to what does the Constitution say about an officer pulling an individual out the car or making a person stay in the car, as you see in both these videos.
Well, Joe, I'm just gonna have to jump on board with you, man. Dumb is as dumb does. And if you're gonna try, where do you find these videos? Where do you find these police officers? I mean, the first video was a little bit reasonable. I mean, uh, officer safety, especially if you're somebody that's getting out of the vehicle without being asked to get out of the vehicle, that's where you have less um, legal protection, as it will. The Constitution doesn't say anything specifically about this, except would be in the Fourth Amendment. You have the right to be secure in your person's house's papers and effects against unreasonable searches and seizures. No warrant shall issue, but based on probable cause, supported by oath or affirmation, particularly describing the place to be searched or the persons or things to be seized. You have the right to remain silent, which is what that man should have done. But you see, he's really good at what he does, and he makes money suing officers. And so what he does, and I'm going to tell you, Joe, the whole reason that guy got out of the car was to instigate a lawsuit. These people, he may have been a pacifist by nature, but reality, he is an aggressor, but he's a passive aggressor. And so what he wants to do is instigate some kind of conflict. So he can go, I'm not doing anything. They're touching me. They're touching me. And so that's what really, this isn't, I don't even think that's a real scenario, right? No, I believe it really happened, but he creates those situations to make them that happen, because by his own testimony, he doesn't do anything else. That's how he makes money. So don't get out of the car, okay? Unless you want to get shot, don't get out of the car, because the courts are going to back the officer's safety when getting out of the car.
Right. Right. And I'm glad you said that, because a lot of people try to stand on, well, I know my rights, I can get out, I didn't do anything wrong. People truly believe if they feel that they didn't do anything wrong, they have a right to express themselves. They have a right
Yeah,
to
go
defend.
ahead. You have a right to express yourself all the way to the morgue.
Mm-hmm. No, I tell people that all the time. You lose that battle on the side of the road.
Bravo. Yeah.
A lot of these conflicts where it starts just like this, and then the next thing that happens, if the officer chooses, because most officers choose to escalate it. This officer understood this guy's profession. He says, you know what,
right.
I'm going to feed into it. So he
Yeah.
allowed out the car and allowed him to pretty much say what he wanted to say. I actually hardly see that happen. Normally, if somebody's getting out the car, the officer tells you to go back in the car, and you don't, there's normally force used right proceeding to your refusal of getting back in the car. Just the same as we saw with the second video. He asked her to get out of the car. She wouldn't get out. Now, all of a sudden, it goes hands on, and then you see him struggle really hard trying to get her out the car.
Oh no, and he looked foolish. I mean, for real, you look foolish. Why is an officer gonna die on that hill? I mean, I don't even get that. The first officer, Joe, may have been trained by me. You and I were talking. I used to travel a lot. I mean, I used to do 260 constitutional trainings in 22 states every single year. But I don't do that anymore. I don't know if I'm just getting too old, or I'd just rather be home in Florida. But what I do is I travel around the country and I teach deputies, I teach officers how not to get sued. And this is one of the things, and really a couple of videos that you've sent me, I actually use in my training to say, look, if you want to get sued and you want your boss to fire you because you don't know what the laws are, you don't know what how to respect people's rights, then ignore me. Just go right ahead, ignore me, and you'll be sued, and your boss is going to be mad, and you're going to be fired. But the reality is, and we know all too much, Joe, there are people out there who make a living off of this. This is how they work. And I always tell them, the minute they say to you magic words, okay, have I been detained? Okay, that's clue number one. Then they say, what law have I broken? That's clue number two. And then clue number three in any of these orders is somebody with a video camera or a phone videotaping what you're doing. And that puts you on notice that you have a professional um, lawsuit on your hands. Joe, I'd like to have your input on that dude trying to pull that lady out of her car, because that was totally mind-boggling to me. How do you claim officer safety when you're standing on the side of an interstate trying to forcibly pull a woman out of her car?
What I see a lot happens, and even when I was in a job, the officer safety is used as a retaliatory measure when
Oh yeah, 100%.
cooperating. You know, if a
Mhm.
person is giving you feet, he's giving you kind of an attitude, because you see it. You'll see everything going fine until the person starts saying, "Well, I didn't do nothing. I didn't do this. I didn't do that."
Mhm.
The officer right away will go, "All right, now get out the car." You wasn't worried about officer safety until the person, the subject in the vehicle, started displaying disapproval of that stop. Now it becomes an officer safety. I want to show you who's boss. I want to pull you out the car. I want to make you feel uncomfortable. I want to inconvenience you, because there's nothing else I can do at that moment to clap back at you for not just cooperating. Like I tell people now, and I'm starting to give classes now to a lot more younger recruits. Listen, dude, stop taking everything so personal.
Yeah.
Stop taking people will not comply. Depending on the non-compliance, it's within their constitutional rights. Or because they don't comply doesn't necessarily mean that they violated a law. So you can't take it so personal. With this particular officer, you can visually see in the vehicle, right? There was no weapons. He started talking to her at first, and then he looked really bad about getting out the car. She wasn't trying to get away. It was a non-compliance. If he really wanted to get out the car, stop, call for another unit. Both of you guys come back, and then another, because sometimes it takes another personality. I've been in situations like this where the contact officer walks up, and then all of a sudden there's tension, and then I go, hold on, come on, and switch. I go with a different approach. It's a new person, and then the person's looking at me. I go, look, I don't know what happened. Can you give me a license, registration? And this is how the traffic stop's going to go. If he might be wrong, you might be wrong, but we can't decide that on the side of the road. He's going to issue a summons. You'll have your day in court. We'll both go in front of a judge, and then we'll pretty much, I'll give my argument, you give yours, and the judge decides. But this particular officer, he looked bad. He looked like a fool. Like,
He did.
He was really trying too hard to get her out the car, and he couldn't. And so I'm like, you really pushing this envelope? Like, really? Like, I just think he could have made better choices when it came down to
All right.
horrible.
I think he was in for a penny in for a pound at some point. He just figured he'd gone too far. He couldn't back up anymore.
Right.
But the other thing that I see, not only the whole officer safety thing, I see a lot of disobeying. I told you, you're disobeying an order, you're resisting without violence, this is disorderly conduct. All of that are just excuses to be aggressive when you shouldn't. And for people who are being pulled over for a traffic ticket and you think you've been wronged, I always tell people, look, just be cooperative and take the ticket. If you really want to inconvenience the officer, sign up for a hearing to contest your ticket. Because Joe, you know exactly what I'm talking about. No officer wants to go to traffic court.
Mhm.
And so take them to traffic court and contest your ticket. Get yourself an attorney and contest the ticket. And I've helped several people get out of tickets as an attorney. I've never lost a ticket case. And I'll tell you, maybe half or more of those tickets I get off for the person, because the officer never shows up to traffic court. So, there's no reason to die on the side of the road, and there's no reason to go to jail and have to post bond, because once you post your bond to the bondsman, you're not getting that back.
That is true. That is true. And you mentioned something that I hear all the time, in the comments, because I'm starting to read a lot more of the comments. People are sending a lot more videos, which I appreciate you guys sending these videos. That tells me you like these assessments, you like the guests I bring on. So I love you guys for that. When the officer says disobeying a lawful order, can you define what a lawful order is? Because I see that argument all the time. Because there are some officers believe anything they say, it's a lawful order. Because I'm the law enforcement officer, and when I tell you something, it's lawful. So I know that not to be true. So can you break that down, a lawful order, for my audience?
Well, it's really it's very simple, because the Supreme Court has told us the standard for, gosh, I don't know, maybe 60 years now. This has been very clear. That just because it comes out of the officer's mouth doesn't make it a lawful order. As a matter of fact, the Supreme Court has said that the words of an officer do not equate to law, because if we allow them to be equated to law, then we replace law with the rule of men. And that's not a constitutional republic. That's a dictatorship, that's a kingdom, and that's not what we are. And so when an officer is giving a lawful order, it's actually based on the law. So, for example, stop beating your wife. Okay, that's a lawful order. Stop stealing that stuff. That's a lawful order. Or if someone is fleeing the scene of a felony, a murder, something like that, and an officer says, stop, that's also a lawful order. But if an officer tells you something that is not based on a law, but based on a preference, okay, then that is not a lawful order, and you legally don't have to obey. Now, you got to decide what hill you want to die on. So that's where you are. If you are one of these professional people that is going to get arrested, and you're used to getting arrested, and you know how it works, and you have an attorney already on standby waiting to do that, then you can push it and say, you know, what law have I broken? You can't just tell me to do things. You have to tell me what law you're ordering me to comply with. And there's no law that says you can't hold a sign on an overpass protesting. There's no law that says you can't protest outside somebody's business on a public sidewalk, or you can't hand out flyers in a public park. I mean, there's just a litany of things that are covered under free speech, under First Amendment issues. So you have to really be sure that you're on solid ground, and you have to be willing to be arrested and to sue. Other than that, either stand your ground and you know you're confident, and you have to go through the all motions, because look, if you just get threatened to be sued and you're not sued, you're not going, or you get threatened to be arrested, sorry, and you're not arrested, you're not going to get to sue anybody. Okay. So if you want a lawsuit, which is what that guy said, remember, I'm not going to put my hands on anybody. I want somebody to put their hands on me. When they put their hands on me, I'm going to sue them. And so that's what has to happen. You have to be put in jail. It has to be adjudicated as a wrongful arrest if you're going to have a lawsuit.
Right. And if you decide to go down that path to prove a point of your constitutional rights being violated, do it exactly like he said. I will put my hand on my back. I will let you cuff me, because once you start to resist, the officer will use force. He's going to use force because he's pissed at you, because he's challenging your authority. You already got
It's going to hurt.
If they violate you, why get beat up in the process?
Yeah.
You don't need to get beat up. Your bag is going to be your bag for your concert. This guy goes all over the country. He pushes the envelope. He just goes to jail, and he gets the bag. So you don't have to get beat up in the process. So
the other thing, Joe.
Go ahead.
Yeah, the other thing I want to say is, look, if you're in a situation and you're all alone, and you don't have anybody videoing what's happening, as an attorney, and if it's just your word against the officer, I can't help you. I'm not going to be able to defend you. And don't side, you know, people like comment, what about body cams? What about body cams? You're gonna trust your civil rights and your personal bodily protection on body cams. That's a very bad idea. So if you do not have someone else with you who has a camera, well, I got my witnesses. Guess what? An officer's testimony in the courtroom outweighs at least three witnesses. So, and then depending on who those witnesses are, it could be even more witnesses, right? So, depending on who you roll with, who your witnesses are. But the reality is, if you don't have a video recording of your rights being violated, it's going to be impossible for even the best civil rights attorney to help you.
Yeah, and where I see this apply a lot, and officers, I hear them all the time use it. You have an officer on a traffic stop, somebody walking on the sidewalk will stop and start videoing it.
Mm-hmm.
Person to move on, and they go, no, I have a constitutional right to stand there. I'm not interfering with you, I'm recording. And I'm protected by the Constitution to record. You're a public servant. Right. Officer then says, I'm giving you a lawful order to move on. And then you don't move on, then the officer goes and puts hands on you and takes you to jail. That is the most common situation that I see all the time. Officers don't like being recorded. They'll quickly say it's a lawful order to move on. And if you don't, you're going to be subject to arrest for failing to obey a lawful order. KrisAnne, is that a lawful order?
It absolutely is not a lawful order, and it is absolutely an unconstitutional order. And the Supreme Court has said from state Supreme Courts to federal Supreme Courts that if you are a public servant, you had better be expected to be recorded in the operation of the duties that the people are paying you to do. And so the limitation is that you can't get in between all of the arrest. You can't interfere with that arrest. You can't be in physical contact with that arrest. But if you're standing 3-5 feet back and you're just recording, that you have the right to record, and that is something that is absolutely settled. The interesting thing is that if you're going to be somebody who does that, please have a friend with you who doesn't get arrested. So you hand your phone to that friend, because if you get arrested and your phone goes into the evidence locker, it's probably going to come out with no videos left on it.
Yeah, 100%. I agree. I definitely agree. Well, KrisAnne, thanks for joining us. Thanks for educating the actual audience. We love you. I always
thank you. Guys, it's been so long. I'm happy to be back.
Constitutional. When I battle with people all the time, but normally before I do, I consult with KrisAnne just to make sure on the constitutional end I'm making the right points. So I appreciate her wisdom, her knowledge, and we definitely need to have you back. And like I tell you, this is for educational purposes all the time. Right. Talking about the legality of the stop, your constitutional rights. At the end of the day, I want you guys to make it home. You got to think about it. Is it worth battling on that side of the road with the potentially losing your life? You know, this guy has it down to a science. He's from communities that don't. When you look at the numbers from his community that gets really beat down and killed versus some from other communities, he has a higher opportunity or higher chance of surviving than other people. You know, he said he's a scholar, real educated. He knows the tones, he knows the words, he's real passive. He's giving up. He's not out here yelling and arguing, you did me wrong, this, that, and the third, which is going to escalate the entire situation. So be careful when you challenging them. You know, if you got to take an L and you choose to stand on that, I'm protecting my Constitution, and it means going to jail, I go to jail, do it safely. And what I mean by that, cooperate. Say, I'm willing to go to jail to prove to you that I am correct, that you're wrong. I will sue you, I will sue the department, and I will get the bag. That's the only way that plays out to the best way it can play out. But to argue it and fight it on that side of the road is not where you need that fighting. Because like I said, fight in that courtroom. What he's doing is agitating that flame to get to that courtroom. He know at the end of the day he's going to get to that courtroom. And he already said, I'm not violent. I'm passive. I will voluntarily put the cuffs on myself, just about, and go to jail just to prove to you that you're wrong and I'm right. So understand something. You got to get home to your families, man. So think about this. Think about it. Think about it. Next time you come across a situation where you want to stand up for your rights, and I believe you should stand up, especially if you know that you're being done wrong. If you know 100% you're being done, stand up. But the way you do it matters. Get home to your family. Be safe, and see you next time. Love you.